Romney revived. The GOP candidate keeps on rolling with a double win in last night's primaries.
Turning to school, Utah's governor is teaming up with a task force to get women back in college.
And BYU USA elections, they're not running for commander-in-chief, but these BYU students still say their race is important. I'm Kelsey Eager.
And I'm Kara Teo. It's Wednesday, February 29th, and in Utah, it's 12 o'clock.
From KBYU and the BYU Department of Communications. This is the award-winning 11 News at noon.
What a win. This is a big night. Thanks.
Two more states go to Mitt Romney in his run for the Republican presidential nomination, giving him a 100-vote lead over his closest competitor. Arizona's contest was a winner-take-all, so he gets all their 29 delegates. And in his birth state of Michigan, he squeaked out a 41 to 38% victory, meaning he'll split the state's 30 delegates with rival Rick Santorum.
We didn't win by a lot, but we won by enough, and that's all that counts.
Newt Gingrich and Ron Paul had little support in Michigan, but neither actively campaigned there. Both say that yesterday's races pale in comparison to the 437 delegates up for grabs in next week's Super Tuesday race. 10 states go to the polls that day, including our neighbors in Idaho. A law expires in July that some say could put small-town gas stations out of business. Utah House members voted against renewing a law that bans gas stations from selling gas at a price cheaper than it actually costs. The Motor Fuel Marketing Act started in 1981 and keeps corporate gas stations from pricing out small-town ones. The extension failed by one vote.
The Pledge of Allegiance could be mandatory in all public school classrooms. The Utah Senate passed Bill 223 and it now moves to the House. It requires each class to recite the pledge at least once a day in their classroom, and a different student would lead every day. Teachers would have to tell their classes that reciting the pledge is optional for each student. Governor Herbert doesn't want the Air National Guard to get hit with steep budget cuts. He teamed up with 48 other governors in signing a letter to the U.S. Secretary of Defense. It asks for changes in the way the U.S. Air Force will distribute cutbacks. They want the U.S. Air Force to absorb more of the cuts rather than the Air National Guard.
Utah Supreme Court has ruled that the medical staff who treated a man who shot and killed his wife have an obligation to the man's children. David Ragsdale killed his wife in 2008, and blood reports showed that Ragsdale was heavily medicated at the time. This led the children's guardian to file a lawsuit against Ragsdale's doctors. The overturned lower court judge said the staff had no duty to the children because they were a third party. The lawsuit will now go back to the trial court. New court documents say the man who was accused of killing one police officer in an Ogden shootout had 16 marijuana plants growing in his home. Now, Ogden authorities want to permanently seize Matthew Stewart's house, but Stewart's father says authorities shouldn't be able to take his home when he hasn't been convicted.
A decision involving Utah's first nuclear power plant could wind up in court. State engineer Kent Jones says he stands by his decision to allow Blue Castle Holdings to take water from the Green River to cool its proposed plant. Many, including environmental groups, are protesting the decision. Opponents say more research is needed and suggest a judicial rule could follow. A Salt Lake County Council vote means Snowbird can go ahead with their roller coaster proposal. The 5-2 vote changes the way they control development in Little Cottonwood Canyon so that Snowbird can restart the permit process. Opponents are concerned with the environmental impact in the canyon, especially since the county turns snowmelt from the area into culinary water.
Women who dropped out of college make it an incentive to go back. 11 News reporter Karen Sullivan spoke with the governor about plans to increase the number of Utah women attending and graduating from college.
Michelle Olson went to college for about a year and a half.
I didn't really get into an actual major.
When she got married and decided to buy a house, she put school aside. And she's not alone. A recent education poll found that over half of the women who dropped out of college before getting a degree finished more than 4 semesters of work.
I do plan to go back.
The College Task Force has a plan that could help her return to campus and finish faster. At the top of their list of items to make that happen is government involvement. That's why the governor is asking the legislature to approve money for the Women's Task Force to do research and analysis.
The first step of this longer journey is $100,000 to fund the Women in Education Task Force. So I'm hopeful the legislature will approve that in this budget session.
The next steps involve giving students who want to go back to school more options, such as flexible hours, financial aid for returning students, and increased awareness about the benefits of a degree.
The Women's Task Force plans to launch a social media campaign to change what they say is the mentality that women don't need to finish their degrees.
Officials say that a degree provides economic security, but that's not all. Even if mothers plan only to stay at home with children, education is important.
More educated mothers have more educated daughters and more educated sons.
At the Capitol, Karen Sullivan, 11 News.
And for women who dropped out of school a few credits shy of a degree, the task force wants to create a certificate to show completed credits.
Still to come on 11 News at noon. Leap year, why the extra day every 4 years keeps the calendar from going completely out of whack.
And twister damage, a tornado tore through Kansas overnight. A look at the destruction when we return.
It comes around every 4 years, and the extra 24 hours actually make a big difference. Reporter Karen Kafa shows us why we add the leap day to the calendar.
Every 4 years, these guys get an extra day of spring batting practice.
All the way back to
these guys get an extra day on the campaign trail. But why do we really need February 29th on the calendar this year? The answer is partly in our man-made calendar and partly in the way the Earth moves.
It goes around the sun once in 365 and almost a quarter day. Almost, but not quite. So, in order to rectify this, we have to periodically add an extra day to the calendar.
Jeff Chester is with the U.S. Naval Observatory, the country's ultimate arbiter of date and time. He says the leap year dates back to Julius Caesar and the Romans. The idea was to keep the summer and winter solstices and the spring and fall equinoxes close to the same day on the calendar each year. Without an extra day every 4 years, the seasons would gradually shift, and after enough time, throw our calendar completely out of whack.
We are the only creatures on the planet that really have a need to know about exactly what time it is. From not only a day-to-day point of view, but in our society today, we need to know time down to these incredible tiny fractions of a second.
2012 will actually be longer than a typical leap year, adding a leap second on June 30th to sync atomic clocks with the Earth's rotation. If that seems too complicated to sort out, in its most basic form, it's all just a matter of time. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
2 professors from Johns Hopkins University have proposed a permanent calendar that would ignore leap day and create a leap week every 5 or 6 years. But so far, the idea has little support.
A string of tornadoes wipe out a tiny Kansas town. A training mission takes the life of at least one man, and a football coach stands up to a student with a gun. Here's your look at news from across the nation. Several twisters swept through a small town in southern Kansas last night. Harveyville residents watched the storm demolish their trees, power lines, and even their homes. With at least 9 injury reports and many more in need of aid, Governor Brownback has declared a state of emergency. A helicopter crashed off the coast of Alabama during a U.S. Coast Guard training mission. Of those on board, 1 is dead and 3 others are still missing. The Coast Guard teamed up with local officials to search for the missing crew and investigate what caused the crash. And Monday's Ohio school shooting ended with 3 students dead, but it could have been more if it wasn't for the school's assistant football coach. Frank Hall chased the suspected shooter out of the cafeteria after he allegedly opened fire. Witnesses say Hall put his own life at risk, charging the gunman despite being unarmed. Hall apologized to the victims' families and says he wishes he could have done more. And that's your look at news from across the nation.
When 11 News at noon returns. BYU USA race. Campaigns are rolling on campus. What these students are doing to get your vote. And birthday couple. It's taken 80 years for these Australian sweethearts to finally reach their 20s. Why their age hasn't quite caught up with their gray hair. Stay with us.
Last night's caucuses are over, but 11 News reporter Rosemary Card has an update on a presidential race a little closer to home.
It's day 3 in the 4-day BYU presidential race, and the candidates Brandon Hatch and Robert Carroll are working hard to get students' votes.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Don't forget to vote.
Have you had the chance to vote yet?
The banners are up and the campaigners are out. Between Facebook announcements and tweets, it's clearly election week on campus. The use of QR codes and social media may not be unique to this campaign trail, but the people involved say the spirit of the race is what sets it apart.
The vision of BYU is based upon building Christ-like leaders. That's something that Robert and I want to continue to support so that we can really have a unified campus here.
We see in national politics and in state politics a lot of mudslinging. You focus on spreading the good news of your message, and that's what really ends up winning campaigns year after year after year.
BYUSA created vote.byu.edu to simplify the voting process. Students sign in using their Root Y account, then select the candidate of choice and hit submit. BYUSA says that only 2,800 students voted in last year's election, but a presidential hopeful says 4,000 students voted on Monday alone.
The accessibility has definitely helped, and hardworking campaign volunteers have made a huge difference.
Candidates say it's been a tough 3 days. The current BYUSA president looks back on his own election week and offers them a bit of advice.
Don't give up. They're working so hard, and not to get discouraged because it can be intense and a lot of students have a lot to say, but to keep remembering why they ran and to just don't give up because they are making a difference.
Students have until Thursday, 5 p.m. to vote. Both parties say if they win, students can plan on a party to remember.
Okay, woke up yesterday, it was snowing, and again this morning it was snowing.
Yeah, just lightly snowing. If we take a look outside, you see that snow on the mountain. It's snowy, breezy. It'll stay like that throughout the day. It's 37 degrees outside currently with 56% humidity. Going into tonight, we'll see some more snow showers, accumulating about 1 to 3 inches of snow. Our low is 27 degrees, and the sunset will be at 6:18. Looking at our 5-day forecast for northern Utah, we see snow until the weekend. But the high today is 44. Tomorrow there's a 70% chance of snow. Lows are in the 20s across the board with highs for Thursday and Friday in the 30s. Over the weekend, finally be back along with some warmer temperatures. High for Saturday is 41, and on Sunday a beautiful 50 degrees.
All right, I'm really looking forward to that 50 degrees.
The West Coast Conference Awards are out for basketball, and forward Kristen Riley has been named the Women's Player of the Year after finishing in the top 5 in 6 statistical categories. Guard Lexi Eaton is co-newcomer of the year, along with being named to the freshman All-WCC team. Guard Haley Steed joins Riley on the All-Conference team, and academic All-WCC honors go to center Jennifer Hampson and guard Kim Parker. And the men are well represented too. Forwards Noah Hartsock and Brandon Davies earned all-conference honors, and point guard Matt Carlino is on the freshman all-conference team. And guard Craig Cusick earned an academic All-WCC award as well. And the West Coast Conference tournament tips off today in Vegas with both the men's and women's play-in games. The women will get the tourney going as number 8 San Francisco takes on number 9 Loyola Marymount, followed by a matchup between number 8 Portland and number 9 Santa Clara on the men's side. Neither game is televised, but you can check out our website, 11news.byu.edu, to find out how you can watch it online.
Sean, will BYU see any of these teams who are playing today?
Probably not for either the men or the women unless they get to the championship, but hey, anything can happen.
Yeah, well, thanks, Sean. Still to come on 11 News at noon. Leaping lovebirds. This couple shares the same birthday, but it only comes around every 4 years. How their family celebrates the calendar curiosity. We'll be right back.
One Australian couple was born on the same day, and not only that, but the same day in the same leap year. Reporter Brett Clappis shows us how the 80-year-olds lovebirds can legitimately say they're only 20.
Not many married couples share a birthday.
We can belch each other and everything, we can't say a thing.
Could you imagine? Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, come on.
Even fewer were born on the very same day of the very same year.
Happy birthday to you.
But Bill and Dole Sheridan's story takes the cake.
Happy birthday to you.
Both were born on February 29 in the leap year 1932.
One of us said I was born on the 29th of February, but I said to you as well. So was I.
Well, I don't know which one.
It's that way around.
At first we didn't believe each other.
So physically, they're 80. By the book, or calendar in this case, these great-grandparents are the tender age of 20.
It's lovely. Yeah, it does. We can pretend we're young, you see.
3 generations helped these young sweethearts celebrate at McLaren Vale. Only a leap year baby would need 4 goes. The couple found each other in their hometown of Liverpool, living just streets apart.
We were together like that, weren't we?
Yeah,
from the beginning, and we haven't changed. We're still like that.
2 peas in a pod.
They married 40 years ago, or does that make it 10? I'm confused. But at least the family has 4 years to prepare for the big one, Bill and Dole's joint 21st.
We might get there, yes. We'll come back and tell you.
I bet that's going to be a great birthday celebration. Yeah, 4 years to plan. That's 11 News at noon for Wednesday, February 29th.
You can join us anytime on our website, 11news.byu.edu.
Thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon.